WiggleCulture here. We got our Osage orange planted around the perimeter, and while I was working, I came up with kind of a plan. So they end up being about 3 feet apart, a little further apart than I wanted, but I think I can make it work to get my privacy screen and physical protection, you know, barrier, like a barbed wire fence. I'm going to fold every other one over and tie it to the tree next to it. And I'm just going to keep laying them over after they're in here a while and they get stabilized. So I'll have one growing upright, then I'll have one bent over. And I think eventually I'll end up harvesting every other one once I get this whole hedge in place. So while I'm working, so I'm out here working, I noticed I had rototilled this ditch. And I'm thinking, well, what can I put in here? These trees aren't going to take over everything. And I am going to fence this off so the goats and the cows don't get in here and destroy my trees. So I'll fence it off across here, just come straight across, and I'll add a few going over to that corner. And I'll just put in enough cattle panels as a physical barrier and just put one T-post on each end. So it's only going to take 12 to 15, something like that, I don't remember, but maybe 16 panels. And then I'll have this all fenced off. Grass won't be a problem, hopefully, because I'll have mostly hayed in around the trees. But the idea I came up with, I had gotten down to this point here. I have this rototilled ditch that I had used, which is a pretty good way to plant trees. It's been, this is 2-3 days now. We got a rain last night, rained in the trees. We didn't water them in, so that was helpful. But I got this ditch going on, so I'm thinking of putting potatoes in there. Potatoes don't like it too rich, so I was going to rototill another line right next to this one I just did. I'm going to just lay the potatoes in this ditch, then I'm going to rake the dirt over, and then it's going to kind of complete my little mound. So now I'm going to stop water from running downhill, and I'm going to give it to my trees and to my potatoes now. Now I would put this in on top of those potatoes. It's just too rich. Potatoes don't like that super high nitrogen stuff like that. So I'm just going to rake the soil right back on top from the ditch that I cut. That way it'll just be more of this red clay and just a little topsoil. That probably won't be too rich for those potatoes. I know I'm getting them in late, but I'm better late than never. I'm going to see what I can get out of them this year. See how the pests do. I'm going to try a neem atomizing spray on them this year. See if we can keep the beetles, potato beetles, under control, and those little orange bugs, whatever those things are called. So, and then on the other side of this, I'm going to go ahead and start transplanting blackberry shoots. So I figure I'll be able to get in here and work on the trees in the fall. I'll cut back the blackberries to give me room to get in here and work. I'm going to put the blackberries pretty close to the line of trees here. And I only got to get down on that ditch to get water. And those raspberries and blackberries, they'll get down there. They'll go after that. So they'll be fine. Won't have to water them, would be the point. So I'm going to go ahead and put potatoes in. I'm going to rototill, put potatoes in. Then I'll start putting in the blackberries. I don't know how many I'm going to actually have, but then I'll use this richer compost hay mix. It's newer, manure. But I'll put that around the blackberries more. I don't think it's going to hurt them. And then as it ages, then I'll rake it in on top of the potatoes when it's not quite so hot. And when you get this stuff spread out thin, not too deep, the worms get in there and they work it pretty quick. So it turns a lot more quickly than when it's piled up. It takes a lot longer when it's piled up. So this, like this for instance, this is pretty new dirt. Probably mostly from this past winter, but perhaps some of it was from earlier because I had used hay out here for several years. Man, all that poly netting is a pain. So I just used the forks on my loader to just try to scoop it out of there. So we'll see how that goes. I'll check in with you later after I get these potatoes in. WiggleCulture here. Got the road tilled along these trees. All of a sudden I'm the most popular road in the county. So I got the tiller in. I made 2 passes, one down and back, and then another one down and back. Cut down 4 to 6 inches. Some of the dirt was softer than others. But what I'm doing, got these red Pontiacs that I have cut up previously. They've been sitting around for a week. And it's late April, mid to late April. So I know it's late to be putting in potatoes, but just consider it a second crop or a succession crop or something. So I don't want to put super rich dirt, so I'm just kind of using the dirt that was here. It's got some topsoil. It's got some good color to it. It's not all red. It's been downhill of my manure and spent hay, so it's a little bit richer, but I don't think it's too rich for the potatoes. So I'm just putting in 3 plants in between each tree. It's a little bit too much, but we're going to go ahead and do that. I'll overseed it with some marigolds, hopefully help with the pest. So just doing it by hand using this little 14-inch cultivator. I love that thing. It's down here on my hands and knees sitting in the dirt. I'm just going to pull the dirt back and just bury it. And as the plants come up, I'll move more of the dirt that I loosened out of this ditch on top of the potatoes. Keep piling them up and mounding it up. And this will turn into a walkway. And then above this, I'm going to start saving my shoots on my blackberry, and I'll get a whole row of blackberries in here. So it's going to be a thorny mess. But that's the plan, kind of my outside defenses here. I'll be taking down the T-posts and the cattle panels and leaving up this natural barbed wire fence. So I'll get potatoes in and out of here this year, just because I have a little empty space between these little thin trees. I already worked on all this dirt, cultivated it, or tilled it, so I might as well try to get some kind of crop out of it. So I'll probably put some peas and beans in here with it as I'm working, just to see what comes up and what lives. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time worrying about all this. But it should be fairly weed free because I'm haying it all in, at least on the bottom side. On the top side I'll be putting more dirt in, so that I'll kind of just keep disturbing the weeds and just try to encourage just the potatoes. So I do kind of have water management in place now. It's not exactly on contour, but it's close. Just looking up here. So it's going to change the nature, and this is the last ditch effort kind of idea. Try to, before it hits the ditch, I'm going to try to keep it on the land, but what I do know is that as that water travels down past my parking lot there, I'm going to divert all that water back into my garden, and it'll go downhill that way. So I'm not really losing anything when it hits this ditch, but it's still just kind of the principle of just trying to stop my fertility on the land and not letting it wash. So I'll be back with you later. I did want to mention one of the reasons I'm taking this project on is because of this mess in the front yard here. Well, it's right here. I have all this resource. Not going to get much grazing out of this, so I'm going to start. I'm up on the high point on my land out by the road, so I'm going to start using it. I'm going to start using this hay and manure and straw or whatever I got and compost in between. Start planting along on contour, making my hills and valleys on contour. Try to take advantage of some of this fertility. Wanted to show you where I had healed in my extras, where they don't need as much water and care. And I had roots sticking out of the bottom of the pot, so I just threw the pots down, scraped up this dirt, and buried the pots. Now they'll be a lot more likely to hang in there, not go into shock from being ripped out of the ground. So that's one little thing. So this is kind of my, pardon the wind. So all along the fence here, I'm just going to put potatoes. Apparently peas don't like potatoes. I don't know if that's true or not, but apparently beans and potatoes are fine. So I'm put in a landrace stringless green bean, bush bean, putting that in along with the potatoes in each little section. And we'll just see how things go. I was going to show you what I'm doing here. Get my little cultivator. So that's kind of my old ditch over there. This is the new area that I tilled. These are Pontiac, red Pontiacs, putting the sprout side up. They've been sitting around for at least a week. Got them hardened off. They have sprouts. It's a good chance we'll get some potatoes out of that. So I'm going to bury that part way. Then I'm just going to put some beans in. Put a little more dirt on there. Now as the potatoes grow, I'll get this loose dirt, and I may have to till over it again real quick, just kill all the weeds. But when it's time to bury it, then I'll just push more dirt up, and then I'll be getting more of a ditch here to hold water, and I'll be building up more of a hill as the potatoes grow, which they like to do. So this is not super rich soil. I think it's going to be just right for the potatoes. If you put potatoes in too rich of soil, they're just going to give you top growth and no potatoes. So make sure you just don't give them great dirt. So I'm going to just keep planting in between all these spaces all the way around, and I'll update you in a couple weeks when all this stuff starts to bloom. I'll wait for another rain. I'll put some marigold seed and see if we can get any marigolds to take. I think it's warm enough now for them. So thanks for watching.